Hi and welcome to IT Chronicles 10 and Tech. We're coming to you from Knowledge 17. I'm Kirstie Magowan. I'm here today with Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirstie.
And it's our pleasure to be chatting with Dennis Drogseth from EMA. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, security and operations, that's an area you're working in at the moment?
We're doing a lot of research at EMA, so much that I find I'm studying one set of data and then preparing to get the next set of data.
Right.
But probably the research that I'm most current with is integrated security and operations.
Right.
We did a study that is Europe and North America, and we're looking at roles and groups and perceptions to see what is real and what's not with integrated security and operations. So, and we looked across process, technology, metrics, cultural barriers, perceptions, as I say. What was interesting to me is we sort of guided it by role so that we'd have 20% executives, 40% security in their management team. Actually, CISO was included in that group, and 40% operations, ITSM development. And then there was actually a small group that was a business and overlay group as well.
Right.
And then we compared and contrasted teams. So how do you make security and operations work, right? Typically and most effectively, there's one group that will drive the integrations. And about, I want to say about 38%, I could be wrong by a percentage or two, of the time it was security and operations and fraud compliance that would drive. About 20%, it was operations, 19% IT service management, and about 15% development. And then the rest, you can add the percentages up. I think it's another 15% or business and overlay team that we grouped together. And then we looked at their state of mind, their habits, their, what was going on. Interestingly enough, you want to make a wild guess of those teams, which was the most successful?
You have any idea there, Carlos? It's a tough one.
Business?
Very close. They almost were. Business and overlay. It was 72% on, got the highest 72% score for on, but not quite the highest, I should say. 75% was ITSM.
Oh, really?
I was surprised, but not too surprised because in parallel research, we're looking at ITSM evolving as sort of a hub for integrating IT, breaking down silos, where I believe culture and technology come together, right?
So Dennis, so maybe just to hopefully correct my guess, is it because the others were so bad?
Yep. So, well, here's actually, it's interesting to look at how they scale down. So I remember the top percentages and it was self-assigned to some degree, although we tracked how it was self-assigned and it made a lot of sense overall, consistent. So 75% viewed themselves as extremely very successful if they were ITSM driven. 72% if it was the overlay team in business. I'm going to say 61 and 63% if it was I think operations was 63%, and then security and the security fraud 61%. They basically died.
Right, right.
And lowest was development, but then it made sense.
Probably not surprising to see that one at the bottom.
I
guess I'm surprised mainly with the security one, that you would think that they, obviously knowing the ramifications, knowing the implications of what they're doing, and probably having the most visibility if something were to go wrong in that space, that you'd want them higher. But I guess that's why I was kind of asking, is because they recognize that even the smallest variance for them is a big deal. So do they measure themselves more critically than maybe the business or ITSM that maybe doesn't fully understand it? So that's why I was kind of wondering.
I see. Yeah. Well, there's always although actually when we looked at the percentages, it scaled out pretty consistently in terms of other trends in terms of unification, technology adoption, and what have you. So why isn't security on top in terms of driving it, in terms of success? Probably because the two top winners were those that were most focused historically on bringing groups together.
Okay.
And to succeed in the integration. Now, mind you, I should also make it clear, the success rate was not about absolute security.
Right.
The success rate was the SecOps, as we defined it, security and operations,
right.
not security operations.
Sure.
How successful was that integration? How successful was that initiative for you?
Okay.
And so those groups that were most planted in promoting dialogue, promoting process consistency,
right.
promoting data sharing across groups,
Yep.
those were the most successful.
So I'm curious, one thing that, and I was actually just having a conversation with someone at lunch about it, you know, the infusion of security into the normal everyday aspects, you know, the incident folks, the change folks, and just all those service management folks.
Yeah.
And obviously, ideally, you know, your development stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that's really where we need to grow to, is security isn't the afterthought. It's not the,
right.
you know,
right.
towards the end kind of, you know, put it in place. Kind of like, you know, testing is always on the back end of development. It really shouldn't be. Are you, I mean, and I don't know if you were able to capture or infer any of this out of the study. Are you seeing any of that? Are you seeing more education of the business and of service management folks, of even the principles of security to keep a lookout for? Because like I said, I see that's the danger.
I think that one of the themes was security and operations integration is real. The executive suite cares about it. There was a lot of parallel view between the CISO and the IT executive suite. The biggest obstacles, we looked at cultural obstacles and other obstacles, but the biggest obstacle in general across all teams had to do with technology issues.
Right.
Tools weren't well integrated, the data wasn't consistent and shared. So it's a huge opportunity
right.
for the vendor community to step up to how do we provide a consistent, data accurate, current context
right.
for these groups to work together more proactively.
Yeah.
It was quite dramatic to me that was a priority. Another issue with security is pun intended, insecurity, which is
Yeah.
Security has a problem justifying its existence, ironically, although much less so since things like Target.
Yeah.
But how do they show value? How do they show?
Right.
And so the other groups, and that's another area where ITSM has evolved in terms of IT governance, right?
Right.
So how do we justify what we need more in investment?
Right.
In fact, their prime, when asked about their prime obstacle, it was on resources, getting the resources they need.
Right.
Versus the other teams which were more data related.
Right.
And then the business overlay was cultural. So each team viewed the obstacles through a different lens.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Dennis, always great speaking with you. I mean, every time you're in the middle of a study or just wrapping up a study, so that's a good thing, been busy. Thanks again for joining us.
Oh,
and,
my pleasure.
Look forward to talking to you again.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Dennis.
you.
Great to talk to you again.
Thanks.